Jiwoo stood in the docking bay of Station Kelvar 9, watching the massive steel doors close behind her transport ship. Her small travel bag hung from her shoulder, containing everything she owned. The station was huge, far bigger than anything she had seen before. Lights flickered along the curved walls, and strange sounds echoed through the metal corridors. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved past her, barely glancing in her direction. She took a deep breath and walked forward. This was her chance. Earth had finally joined the galactic community, and she was one of the first humans sent to work on an alien station. As a xenobiologist, she had studied animals all her life. Now she would study creatures from other worlds. The excitement made her hands shake slightly. A tall reptilian creature stopped in front of her. His scales were dark green, and his eyes were yellow with vertical slits. He stood at least 3 meters tall, and his claws clicked against the metal floor as he moved. "You are the human?" His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Yes, I'm Jiwoo. I'm here for the research program." The alien looked down at her. His mouth opened slightly, showing rows of sharp teeth. It took Jiwoo a moment to realize he was laughing. "So small," he said. "I am Tarak. I run the xenobiology department. Follow me." Jiwoo followed Tarak through the station. Other aliens stopped to stare at her. Some pointed. Others made sounds she couldn't understand. Tarak didn't slow down or explain anything. He just walked, and she had to almost run to keep up with his long strides. They entered a large room filled with screens and workstations. Several aliens were already there. A massive, insect-like creature, with armor plating, turned to look at her. 2 floating beings made of swirling gas drifted closer. A creature that looked like a walking pile of crystals clicked its way across the floor. "Everyone, this is the human," Tarak announced. "She will be joining our research team." The insect creature made a clicking sound. "That is a human? I thought they would be bigger." "They are prey animals," said one of the gas beings. Its voice sounded like wind through a tunnel. "Look at her. No claws, no armor, no weapons at all. Just soft skin. How did such a weak species even achieve space travel?" the crystal creature asked. Jiwoo felt her face grow hot. She wanted to defend herself, to explain that humans were stronger than they looked. But she said nothing. She just stood there while they talked about her like she wasn't in the room. Tarak moved to the center of the group. "The human will be working in the menagerie. We received 5 Rendak cubs last week. They were taken from poachers and need rehabilitation before we can release them back into the wild." The entire room went silent. The insect creature, who Jiwoo later learned was named Vesh, tilted its head. "You're giving the human the Rendak cubs? Those creatures are apex predators. They're from a death world. Even the young ones are dangerous." "Exactly," Tarak said, his teeth showing again. "Let's see how the weak human handles real predators. Maybe she'll learn something about strength." The other scientists made sounds that Jiwoo recognized as laughter. Her stomach twisted into a knot, but she kept her face calm. "I'll do my best," she said quietly. "Your best?" Tarak leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath smelled like meat. "Your best won't matter if they decide you're food. But don't worry. We'll have the shock prods ready to save you when you start screaming." More laughter filled the room. Over the next 3 days, Jiwoo tried to settle into her work. Every time she entered the lab, the other scientists made comments. They called her soft prey and the fragile one. Tarak seemed to enjoy making jokes about how long she would last before the Rendak cubs attacked her. But Jiwoo had dealt with bullies before. She had grown up in a small town where being different meant being targeted. She had learned to stay quiet, work hard, and prove herself through actions, not words. On her 4th day, she was finally taken to the menagerie. It was a massive section of the station dedicated to housing alien creatures. Some were there for research. Others were being rehabilitated after being rescued from illegal traders. The place smelled strange, like a mix of zoo and hospital. A mechanical voice guided her through the corridors. Rendock enclosure ahead. Warning. Creatures are classified as extremely dangerous. Do not enter without proper safety equipment. Ji-woo reached the viewing window. Inside the enclosure, 5 creatures moved in the shadows. They were low to the ground, about the size of large dogs, but built like hunting cats. 6 legs supported their muscular bodies. Black scales covered them from head to tail, and their eyes glowed amber in the dim light. Sharp claws scraped against the metal floor. She watched them for a long time. They moved nervously, pacing back and forth. One of them, smaller than the others, stayed in the corner. The bigger cubs sometimes snapped at it, driving it away from the food dispenser. "They're scared," Ji-woo whispered to herself. A screen next to the window showed their medical records. All 5 were malnourished. They had injuries from their time with the poachers. The station's previous handlers had used shock prods and restraints to control them. Every interaction was listed as aggressive or hostile. Ji-woo read through the reports carefully. Then, she looked back at the cubs. They weren't acting aggressive. They were acting traumatized. She pressed the communication button. "This is Ji-woo. I'd like to request access to the Rendak enclosure." A voice crackled back. "Are you certain? Those creatures are dangerous." "I'm certain." There was a pause. "Authorization granted. Safety equipment is in the prep room. Emergency extraction will be standing by." Ji-woo suited up in protective gear, though she planned to remove most of it once inside. She wanted the cubs to see her, not a walking tank. She took a deep breath and entered the airlock. The door hissed open. 5 pairs of amber eyes turned toward her. The cubs tensed, their bodies low to the ground. Growls rumbled from their throats. Ji-woo didn't move forward. She sat down on the floor, making herself smaller. She didn't look directly at them. Instead, she looked at the ground and waited. Minutes passed. The cubs didn't approach. They just watched her. Finally, Ji-woo spoke in a soft voice. "I know you're scared. I know people hurt you. But I'm not going to hurt you. I promise." She reached into her bag and pulled out pieces of fresh meat. She had requested the best quality available. Nothing like the processed food they had been eating. She placed the meat on the floor in front of her, then slowly stood and walked backward to the door. The cubs waited until she was gone before rushing to the food. From the viewing window, Ji-woo watched them eat. The smaller one was pushed away again by the others. It waited until they were done, then ate the scraps. "I see you," Ji-woo said quietly. "I'm going to help you." Behind her, she heard footsteps. Tarak appeared at the viewing window. "Still alive, human? Give it time. Eventually, they'll realize you're made of meat too." Ji-woo didn't respond. She just kept watching the cubs. Tarak laughed and walked away. But Ji-woo didn't care what he thought. She had seen something in those cubs that no one else had noticed. They weren't monsters. They were children who had been hurt and scared, and Ji-woo knew exactly how to reach them. Every morning, Ji-woo entered the Rendak enclosure at the same time. She always moved slowly and spoke in the same calm voice. She never tried to touch the cubs or chase them. She just brought food, placed it down, and sat quietly in the corner. The cubs learned to expect her. After a week, they stopped growling when she arrived. After 2 weeks, they started eating while she was still in the room. They watched her constantly, their amber eyes tracking every movement. But they no longer saw her as an immediate threat. Ji-woo paid special attention to the smallest cub. While the others ate first, he always waited. He was thinner than his siblings, and she could see old scars under his black scales. She started bringing extra food specifically for him. One morning, she placed the regular food in the center of the enclosure as always. But this time, she walked to the far corner and placed a separate pile of the best meat cuts she could find. Then she sat down and waited. The 4 larger cubs rushed to the center pile. The small one watched them, then looked at Ji-woo. She gestured toward the corner pile with her hand. "That's for you," she said softly. "Just you." The small cub hesitated. His nose twitched as he smelled the food. Slowly, carefully, he crept toward the corner. He kept his eyes on Ji-woo the entire time. When he reached the meat, he grabbed a piece and backed away quickly. Ji-woo didn't move. She just smiled. The small cub, who she had started calling Day in her mind, ate the entire pile. For the first time since she had arrived, she saw his tail lift slightly. It wasn't quite happiness, but it wasn't fear either. Over the following weeks, Ji-woo established a routine. She fed Day separately every day. While he ate, she talked to him. She told him about Earth, about the dogs and cats she had worked with, about the animals she had helped. She knew he didn't understand her words, but her tone seemed to calm him. The other scientists watched through the viewing window. Most of them had stopped making jokes. They seemed confused instead. "The cubs should have attacked her by now," Vesh said one day, his insect eyes reflecting the light from the screens. "Rendaks are territorial. They should see her as a threat." "Maybe she's drugging them," suggested Gorak, another Vraxian scientist. "Making them docile. Check the food supplies," Tarak ordered. "I want to know everything she's feeding them." But the tests showed nothing unusual. Ji-woo was only giving them high-quality meat and nutritional supplements. Nothing that would alter their behavior. Inside the enclosure, Ji-woo started the next phase of her plan. The cubs were eating well and gaining weight, but they needed more than food. They needed mental stimulation. She brought in puzzle boxes filled with meat. The cubs had to figure out how to open them to get the food inside. At first, they just attacked the boxes, scratching and biting. But Ji-woo was patient. She showed them how one box worked by opening it herself, then closed it and stepped back. The largest cub, a female, watched carefully. She approached the box and tried to copy what Ji-woo had done. It took her several attempts, but eventually, she figured it out. The other cubs gathered around, learning from her. Soon, all 5 cubs were solving the puzzles. Ji-woo made them more complex each day. The cubs started working together, using their different strengths to open the boxes faster. Day was the smartest. He figured out solutions before the others, and sometimes helped his siblings when they got stuck. Ji-woo noticed that the bigger cubs had stopped bullying him. They seemed to respect his intelligence. One morning, Ji-woo brought in something new. She had spent hours building it in her quarters. A mechanical prey simulator. It was a small device that moved unpredictably across the floor, mimicking the movements of a running animal. She activated it and set it loose in the enclosure. The cubs' eyes lit up. Their hunting instincts kicked in immediately. They spread out, communicating with low chirps and body language. They worked as a team, surrounding the device from different angles. The largest female lunged first. The device dodged. The second largest male cut off its escape route. The device changed direction. Day, the smallest, had positioned himself perfectly. He pounced, his claws catching the device and bringing it down. The cubs celebrated, making excited sounds and bouncing around. Ji-woo clapped her hands. "Good work. You're natural hunters." From that day forward, the cubs saw the enclosure differently. It wasn't a prison anymore. It was a place where interesting things happened. Ji-woo brought new challenges every day. She introduced scent trails they had to follow. She created obstacle courses. She even programmed the lights to simulate day and night cycles from their home planet. The cubs thrived. Their medical scans showed significant improvement. Their weight was normal. Their old injuries had healed. More importantly, their stress levels had dropped dramatically. They started playing. Real, genuine play. They wrestled with each other without real aggression. They chased each other around the enclosure. Sometimes they even played with Ji-woo, carefully pouncing near her feet without using their claws. One afternoon, About 6 weeks after she had started working with them, something changed. Jiwoo was sitting on the floor, updating her notes on her datapad. She was so focused on her work that she didn't notice Day approaching. She looked up when she felt warm breath on her arm. Day was right next to her. His amber eyes stared into hers. His scales were so close she could have touched them. Jiwoo held perfectly still. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her breathing steady. Day sniffed her arm. Then, slowly, he lowered his head and pressed it against her leg. Jiwoo barely dared to breathe. After a long moment, she slowly raised her hand and touched the top of his head. His scales were warm and surprisingly smooth. Day made a sound she had never heard before. It was almost like a purr. From across the enclosure, the other 4 cubs watched. They didn't approach, but they didn't seem alarmed either. Jiwoo sat there for 20 minutes, gently stroking Day's head. When he finally moved away, she felt tears in her eyes. That evening, Tarak came to the viewing window while Jiwoo was inside the enclosure. All 5 cubs were sleeping near her, not touching her, but close enough that she could hear their breathing. "This is impossible," Tarak muttered. "They're predators. They should only respect strength." Yunseo, the Natharii scientist, floated next to him. "Perhaps we don't understand strength as well as we thought. They're probably sick," Tarak insisted. "Something must be wrong with them. Their medical readings are perfect." Yunso replied, "Better than perfect. They're healthier than any Rendak cubs we've ever had in captivity." Tarak's claws scraped against the window frame. "Then she's doing something. Using some human trick. Maybe," Yunseo said thoughtfully, "or maybe humans have a different kind of strength." Inside the enclosure, Jiwoo closed her eyes. She could feel the warmth radiating from the sleeping cubs. They trusted her now, not because she had dominated them or scared them, but because she had shown them kindness when everyone else had only shown them cruelty. Day shifted in his sleep and moved closer to her. His tail wrapped loosely around her ankle. Jiwoo smiled. On Earth, people had formed bonds with wolves thousands of years ago. Those wolves had become dogs, humanity's best friends. They had partnered with cats, horses, birds, and even bees. Humans didn't conquer animals. They befriended them. And now, on a station millions of miles from Earth, Jiwoo had proven that this gift worked across species and across the stars. The cubs had accepted her into their pack, and nothing would ever be the same. 3 months had passed since Jiwoo first entered the Rendak enclosure. The transformation was remarkable. The cubs had grown stronger and more confident. They had mastered every challenge she created for them. More importantly, they had bonded not just with her, but with each other as a true pack. Word of her success had spread throughout the station. Scientists from other departments came to observe. Some asked questions about her methods. Others took notes, hoping to apply her techniques to their own work. A few even asked if she could help with other difficult animals in the menagerie. But not everyone was happy about her success. Tarak had become increasingly hostile. Every morning when Jiwoo arrived at the lab, he found reasons to criticize her. He questioned her reports. He challenged her data. He insisted that her methods were making the cubs weak and unsuitable for release into the wild. "Rendaks are supposed to be aggressive," he said during one morning meeting. "These cubs are too comfortable with you. They won't survive if we release them." Jiwoo kept her voice calm. "They're not comfortable with everyone. Only with me and the handlers who've been working with them, under my supervision. They still show appropriate caution towards strangers. Their hunting instincts are strong. I have the simulation results to prove it." "Simulations aren't reality," Tarak snapped. His crest flared, showing his irritation. "Real predators need to fear nothing and trust no one." Vesh, the insect scientist, clicked thoughtfully. "Actually, pack predators on Earth often show strong social bonds. Wolves, for example, have complex family structures. Perhaps Rendaks are similar." "We are Vraxians," Tarak said, his voice rising. "We are apex predators. We know predator behavior better than any human, but others were beginning to question this assumption. Ji Woo's success couldn't be denied. The cubs were scheduled for release in 2 months, and all their health markers were excellent. Other researchers had started reviewing her documentation, finding her methods sound. Tarek felt his authority slipping, and he didn't like it. The rumors started shortly after. Ji Woo heard them whispered in the corridors. Some said she was drugging the cubs with sedatives. Others claimed she was using some kind of human pheromone that made animals docile. A few even suggested she had damaged the cubs' brains somehow. None of it was true, and the medical scans proved it. But rumors didn't need proof. One afternoon, Ji Woo was in the menagerie's common area, filing her daily reports. It was a large space where researchers could work between enclosure visits. Several other scientists were there, but they kept their distance from her. The door hissed open. Tarak entered, followed by 2 other Vraxian scientists named Gorak and Shes. All 3 were large males, and their presence immediately dominated the room. Tarak walked directly to Ji Woo's workstation. "The Council has concerns about your work, human." Ji Woo looked up from her datapad. "What kind of concerns? Your methods are unproven. The cubs show behaviors that aren't natural for their species. Some council members believe you've damaged them." A. They were Rees. Cries. By said, "That's not true. All the medical data shows they're healthy. Their behavior is natural pack bonding, which is documented in their species profile." Tarek leaned forward, placing his claws on her desk. "Or maybe you've made them weak. Broken them. Like your weak species. They've lost their edge." Other scientists in the room had stopped working. Everyone was watching now. Ji Woo stood up slowly. Even standing, she barely reached Tarek's chest. "The cubs aren't weak. They're healthier and more capable than when I started. If you have concerns, review my documentation. It's all available." "Documentation can be falsified," Gorak said from behind Tarak. "Are you accusing me of lying?" Ji Woo felt her anger rising, but kept it controlled. "I'm saying," Tarak growled, moving closer, "that perhaps we need to verify your claims. Perhaps we need to see if these cubs are truly capable predators, or if you've turned them into pets. They're not pets. They're wild animals who've learned to trust." "Trust?" Tarak laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "Predators don't trust. They dominate or they die. That's not true. On Earth we have—" "I don't care about Earth." Tarak's voice boomed through the room. "Earth is a weak planet that produced weak beings. Your species has no claws, no fangs, no armor. Your prey pretending to be predators." The room was completely silent now. Even the other Vraxians looked uncomfortable. Ji Woo's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to yell, to defend her species, to make him understand. But years of dealing with bullies had taught her that arguing only made things worse. "If you have official concerns," she said quietly, "file a formal complaint with the council. Otherwise, please let me work." Tarak's eyes narrowed. "You think you're so smart, little human. So clever with your soft words and gentle touches. Let's see how smart you are. Little humans. Little nother." He moved toward the control panel on the wall. It monitored all the enclosures in this section of the menagerie. "What are you doing?" Ji Woo asked, her voice sharp. "Proving a point," Tarak said. He reached for the Rendak enclosure controls. "Stop!" Ji Woo ran toward him, but Gorak stepped in her way, blocking her path. "Don't touch those controls," she shouted. "You'll compromise the safety protocols." "Safety protocols for predators?" Tarek's claws moved over the screen. "Let's see how your precious cubs react when you can't feed them. When you're not in control." Intelligers prodded. "Comp/. Tarek, this isn't a good idea," Vesh said, moving forward. "Station regulations prohibit." "I outrank you," Tarak snapped. "And I outrank her. If these cubs are safe, then there's no danger. If they're not, then the human has failed, and we need to know now. His claw pressed the release button. Red lights began flashing in the corridor that led to the Rendoc enclosure. An alarm sounded, then stopped. The mechanical voice announced, "Enclosure breach. Rendoc cubs released to common area. All personnel maintain safe distance. 2. 2. 2. The door to the enclosure corridor hissed open. For a moment, nothing happened. The scientists in the room backed away. Some, moving toward emergency exits. Gorek and Shes positioned themselves behind Tarak, their natural predator instincts making them ready for a fight. Then Jiwoo heard it. The click of claws on metal flooring. The sound was familiar to her now. 6 legs per cub, 5 cubs total. 30 feet, hitting the floor, in a coordinated rhythm. They emerged from the corridor into the common area. All 5 Rendoc cubs. Day in front, the others close behind. Their black scales gleamed under the lights. Their amber eyes scanned the room, taking in everything. Their bodies were low, muscles coiled and ready. They looked at the other scientists. They looked at the Vraxians. They looked at Tarak. And then they looked at Jiwoo, who was still blocked by Gorak. Tarak smiled, showing all his teeth. Now, human. Call them. Let's see if... He never finished his sentence. Day's low growl cut through the air like a knife. It was a sound Jiwoo had never heard from him before. Deep, primal, and full of deadly intent. The other 4 cubs spread out, forming a semicircle. But they weren't surrounding the room. They were surrounding Jiwoo, protecting her. All 5 cubs positioned themselves between Jiwoo and Tarak. Their growls filled the air. Their eyes were locked on the Vraxians. Every muscle in their bodies was tense. Day was directly in front of Jiwoo, his small body bristling with aggression. The message was clear to everyone in the room. Touch her, and we kill you. Tarak's smile vanished. His crest flattened against his head. For the first time since Jiwoo had met him, she saw fear in his eyes. The apex predator had just realized he was facing other apex predators, and they were ready to fight to the death. The common area had become a battlefield waiting to explode. The 5 Rendoc cubs stood in formation between Jiwoo and Tarak, their growls creating a wall of sound that made everyone's blood run cold. Their amber eyes blazed with protective fury. Tarak took a step backward. His natural predator confidence had disappeared. Gorak and Shes moved away from Jiwoo, giving the cubs more space. They knew the danger they were in. Rendoc cubs might be young, but they were still apex predators from a death world. Their claws could cut through metal. Their jaws could crush bone. And right now, all 5 were ready to use every weapon they had. Day's scales bristled along his spine, making him look bigger. His tail lashed back and forth. The smallest of the pack had placed himself at the front, directly in the line of fire. The other 4 supported him, their bodies forming an impenetrable barrier. Everyone stay calm, Vesh said, his insect voice trying to cut through the tension. But Tarak's pride was wounded. Even scared, he couldn't back down completely. They're just cubs, he said, though his voice shook slightly. They wouldn't actually attack. As if to prove him wrong, the largest cub, the female Jiwoo, had been calling Hana in her mind, snapped her jaws. The sound echoed like a gunshot. A clear warning. Try us. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the station. The security system had detected the breach. Emergency protocols were activating. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors as armed security personnel rushed toward their location. Security is coming, Gorak said urgently. If the cubs attack, they'll be killed. That broke through Jiwoo's shock. Her cubs, her pack, would be shot because Tarak couldn't control his ego. Everything she had worked for, all the trust she had built, would end in blood. No, she said firmly. She stepped forward, trying to move around Day. But the small cub shifted his position, blocking her. He looked back at her, his amber eyes meeting hers. The message was clear. Stay back. We protect you. Day, no, Jiwoo said softly. It's okay. I'm okay. But Day didn't move. None of them did. They had identified a threat to their pack member, and they weren't backing down. The security team burst through the main doors. 6 guards in armor, carrying weapons that hummed with lethal energy. They spread out, taking positions around the room. Don't shoot, Jiwoo shouted. Don't hurt them. The security captain, a bulky creature covered in thick gray skin, assessed the situation. The cubs are showing aggressive behavior. If they attack, we will neutralize them. They won't attack, Jiwoo said desperately. They're defending me. They're not the threat here. Stand down from the animals, the captain ordered. We need clear firing lines. But Jiwoo couldn't do that. If she moved away, the guards might interpret it as the cubs chasing her. They might fire. She made a decision. Ignoring every survival instinct screaming at her, Jiwoo pushed past Day. The cub tried to block her again, but she was gentle and persistent. She moved through the protective circle until she was in front of them, between the cubs and Tarak. Now, she was the barrier. Jiwoo, get back! Fesh called out. You're in danger. No, I'm not, she said calmly. She turned to face the cubs. 5 pairs of amber eyes stared at her. They were confused now. She was supposed to be behind them. Protected. Why had she moved? It's okay, Jiwoo said in the same soft voice she had used for 3 months. Everything is okay. I'm safe. You kept me safe. She slowly lowered herself to her knees, making herself smaller and less threatening. The cubs watched her. Every movement. I know you want to protect me, she continued. And I love you for that. But nobody here is going to hurt me. I promise. Day took a step toward her, his head tilted. The growling had stopped, replaced by a questioning rumble. That's right, Jiwoo said. It's just me. Your friend. Your pack. She held out her hand, palm down, the way she had done 100 times before. An invitation, not a command. Day moved closer. His nose touched her hand. Behind him, the other 4 cubs began to relax slightly. Their aggressive postures softened. Good, Jiwoo whispered. She looked back over her shoulder at the security team. Lower your weapons. Please. They're calming down. The captain hesitated, then gestured to his team. The guards lowered their weapons slightly, but kept them ready. Jiwoo turned back to the cubs. She started humming. A gentle melody she sometimes sang while working with them. It was an old Korean lullaby her grandmother had taught her. The cubs knew this sound. It meant safety, comfort, and peace. One by one, the cubs relaxed. The female, Hana, was the first to sit down. Then, the 2 middle cubs. Then, the second largest male. Finally, Day. They were still alert, still watching Tarak and the other Vraxians. But the immediate danger had passed. Jiwoo stood up slowly. Come on, she said. Let's go home. She walked toward the corridor that led back to the enclosure. For a moment, the cubs didn't move. Then Day stood and followed her. The others fell in line behind him. They passed within a few feet of Tarak. The Vraxian pressed himself against the wall, his crest flat, his eyes wide. The cubs ignored him, now that Jiwoo was leading them away. But the message had been sent and received. Touch our pack and face our wrath. Jiwoo led them back to the enclosure. Once inside, the cubs immediately checked their territory, making sure everything was as they had left it. Then, satisfied, they gathered around Jiwoo. She sat down on the floor, and they pressed close to her. Not afraid now, just seeking comfort after the stressful encounter. She stroked their scales, whispering reassurances. Through the viewing window, she could see a crowd gathering. The entire xenobiology department had come to watch. Scientists from other sections, too. Everyone on the station had heard what happened. Yunseo's gaseous form floated close to the window. When she spoke through the communication system, her voice was filled with wonder. "But she's not their species," another scientist said. "How can they consider her pack?" "I don't know," Yunseo admitted. "But they do. They were willing to fight to the death for her." Vesh pressed close to the window. "Did you see how they positioned themselves? It was military precision. They didn't just react with emotion. They strategized. And the small one took point," someone else observed. "The weakest member put himself in the most danger to protect her." "Not the weakest," Vesh corrected. "The most loyal." In the crowd, Tarek stood silent. His hands were shaking. He had come within seconds of being torn apart by creatures a fraction of his size. His authority, his confidence, his entire understanding of strength had been shattered. A young researcher, barely an adult, spoke up. "But how did the human do it? She has no natural weapons, no size advantage, no dominance displays. How did she make apex predators accept her?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Finally, Yunseo spoke. "Perhaps that's the question we should have been asking from the beginning. We assumed humans were weak because they lack our physical advantages. But what if they have advantages we can't see? Like what?" Inside the enclosure, Day had curled up against Jiwoo's side. His purr-like sound rumbled through his body. The other cubs were draped around her like a living blanket. "Like that," Yunseo said quietly, gesturing to the scene. "The ability to make friends across species lines. To create loyalty not through fear or dominance, but through something else. Something we're only beginning to understand." "But what do we call it?" the young researcher asked. Vesh's compound eyes reflected the light from the enclosure. "On Earth, I believe they call it love." The incident with the Rendak cubs became the most talked-about event on Station Kelvar 9. Within hours, everyone had heard the story. Within days, video footage from the security cameras had spread to other stations. Within weeks, it had reached the Galactic Council itself. Tarak was formally reprimanded for breaching safety protocols. He was suspended from his position as department head and placed under review. Some called for his permanent removal. Others, mostly Vraxians, defended him, saying he was merely testing the humans' claims, but the damage to his reputation was done. The image of him pressed against the wall, terrified of cubs defending a human, had destroyed his authority. He spent most of his time in his quarters now, avoiding the stares and whispers. Jiwoo continued her work with the cubs. If anything, the incident had strengthened their bond. They were more protective of her now, always alert when other people were nearby. But with her, they remained gentle and playful. 2 months after the incident, Jiwoo received an official communication from the Galactic Council. They wanted her to present her findings at the Grand Scientific Symposium, the most prestigious research conference in known space. Thousands of scientists, from hundreds of species, would attend. Jiwoo was terrified. She had never spoken in front of large crowds. But she accepted. Her work was too important not to share. The symposium was held on a massive station called Unity 1, built specifically for interspecies cooperation. Jiwoo arrived 2 days early, her presentation prepared and rehearsed dozens of times. The main auditorium was enormous. Seats rose in circular tiers, designed to accommodate every body type imaginable. When Jiwoo walked onto the central platform, she felt incredibly small. Thousands of beings looked down at her. She took a deep breath and began. 3 months ago, I was given an assignment that everyone expected me to fail. I was asked to rehabilitate 5 Rendak cubs who had been rescued from poachers. These cubs were traumatized, aggressive, and considered highly dangerous. Images appeared on the massive screens around her, showing the cubs when she first arrived. Their thin bodies, their fearful eyes, their aggressive postures. My colleagues believed that strength meant domination, that to work with predators, you had to show them you were stronger, that fear and force were the only languages they understood. She paused, looking around the auditorium. I proved them wrong. New images appeared. The cubs playing, solving puzzles, sleeping peacefully. And finally, the image that everyone recognized. The cubs standing in protective formation around her. I didn't dominate these cubs. I didn't force them to obey me. I didn't make them fear me. Instead, I did something very simple. I showed them kindness. Murmurs rippled through the audience. I know what many of you are thinking. Kindness is weakness. Gentleness is for prey species. But let me tell you about Earth. She pressed a button, and images of Earth filled the screens. Forests, oceans, mountains, cities. Earth is what we call a Class 3 death world. We have predators that would terrify most species here. Bears that can crush skulls with their jaws. Big cats that can run faster than most vehicles. Snakes with venom that kills in minutes. And yet, humans are the dominant species. She showed images of humans throughout history. We didn't win through physical strength. We're slower than most predators. We're weaker than most prey animals our size. We have no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. By every measure that you use to judge strength, we should have gone extinct millions of years ago. So how did we survive? She clicked to the next image. A human child, sitting next to a wolf dog. Both smiling. We made friends. The audience was completely silent now. 15,000 years ago, humans encountered wolves, apex predators who saw us as competition. We could have fought them. Instead, we fed them. We shared our fires. We hunted together. Over generations, those wolves became dogs. And dogs helped us survive in ways we never could have alone. More images flowed across the screens. Humans with cats, horses, birds, even bees. We did this with dozens of species. We call it domestication, but it's really partnership. We formed bonds across species lines. We learned to communicate with beings that didn't share our language. We found ways to cooperate instead of compete. She showed footage of her working with the Rendak cubs. This ability is in our nature. It's how we evolved. We're not predators or prey. We're cooperators. We're bridge builders. We're the species that looks at something different and asks, can we be friends? Jiwoo's voice grew stronger. When those cubs stood in front of me, ready to die to protect me, they weren't acting weak. They were demonstrating the strongest bond in nature. Pack loyalty. I didn't force that loyalty. I earned it. Through patience, understanding, and compassion. She looked directly at the camera, knowing her words would be transmitted across the galaxy. You call humans weak because we lack physical weapons. But we have something more powerful. We have the ability to turn enemies into allies, to transform conflict into cooperation, to see potential friends where others see only threats. The screens showed images of humans throughout history, working together, building together, creating together. Humanity has survived ice ages, droughts, predators, diseases, and even our own wars. We survived because we never faced any challenge alone. We built communities. We formed bonds. We helped each other. She clicked to the final image. It showed her sitting with all 5 Rendak cubs. All of them, peaceful and content. This is humanity's strength. Not dominance, not fear, but connection. The ability to look at a scared, traumatized creature and see not a monster, but a friend who needs help. Jiwoo took a breath. So yes, humans are weak by your standards. We can't fly. We can't breathe underwater. We can't survive in extreme temperatures. And we certainly can't win a physical fight against most species in this room. She smiled. But we can make you care about us. We can make you want to protect us. We can turn strangers into family and enemies into friends. And in a universe full of beings who only understand strength through force, that makes us the most dangerous species of all. The auditorium erupted. Some beings stood and applauded. Others made sounds of approval in their own languages. A few looked thoughtful, reconsidering everything they believed about strength and weakness. In the front row, Vesh clicked his mandibles together in approval. Yunseo swirled with what Jiwoo had learned was excitement. Even some Vraxians nodded their heads respectfully. After her presentation, Jiwoo was surrounded by scientists asking questions. Representatives from different worlds wanted to hire human consultants. Others wanted to study Earth's domestication history. Some wanted her to help with their own rehabilitation programs. Later that evening, Jiwoo stood alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. She thought about the cubs, who would be released to a protected reserve next month. She thought about Earth, so far away. She thought about all the humans who would come after her, building bridges across the galaxy. Footsteps approached. She turned to see Tarak. He looked different. Smaller somehow, despite his size. His crest was low, a sign of humility in Vraxian culture. "I came to apologize," he said quietly. "I was wrong about you, wrong about humans, wrong about strength." Jiwoo waited. "I watched your presentation," Tarak continued. "I've been thinking about it constantly. On my world, we're taught that only the strong survive. That compassion is weakness. That bonds make you vulnerable." He looked at her directly. "But those cubs would have killed me for you. They're stronger because of their bond with you, not weaker. I was too proud to see it." "You can still learn," Jiwoo said. "If you want to." Tarak's eyes widened. "You would teach me? After what I did? That's what humans do," Jiwoo said with a small smile. "We give second chances. We believe people can change." She held out her hand, a human gesture of friendship. Tarak looked at it for a long moment. Then, carefully, he placed his massive claw in her small hand. "Thank you," he said. Jiwoo returned to Kelvar 9 a week later. The cubs greeted her with their usual enthusiasm, pouncing and playing. Day pressed his head against her leg in his familiar greeting, but things had changed on the station. Other researchers approached her with respect now. Some asked for advice. Others wanted to learn her methods. Humanity's reputation had shifted from weak prey to potential allies. One morning, Jiwoo received a message from Earth. Her work had inspired the government to create a new program, the Interspecies Bond Initiative. They were training diplomats, veterinarians, and xenobiologists to work across the galaxy, forming connections and building partnerships. Humanity wasn't going to conquer the stars through force. They were going to befriend them. As Jiwoo sat in the Rendak enclosure, surrounded by her cubs, she thought about the future. There would be challenges. Not everyone would accept humans. Some would still see kindness as weakness. But humans had never needed everyone to accept them. They just needed a few friends, a few allies, a few beings willing to see past their differences and build something together. Day climbed into her lap, something he had only recently started doing. He was getting big, almost too big for her lap. Soon he would be released to the wild, where he belonged, but he would remember her. She knew that. Just like dogs remembered the humans who had befriended their ancestors. The bond they had formed would last a lifetime. "Good boy," she whispered, scratching behind his jaw ridge. Outside the viewing window, the galaxy stretched endlessly. Millions of species, billions of beings, all of them potential friends. And humanity, the weak species with no claws and no fangs, was ready to meet them all. Not with weapons, with open hands and open hearts.